Resident Evil Requiem, aka Resident Evil 9, is out now, and me and my son just finished playing through it today, and it's freaking awesome. So I've got the Resident Evil bug, the T-Virus, if you will, and you know what the T-Virus is hungry for? More Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
We are about to rank the entire Resident Evil franchise right now, baby.
Resident Evil.
The entire Resident Evil movie franchise. I just didn't have the time to replay every single game and give them a proper fair ranking, so we're doing the movies, because everyone loves the movies, right? Right? In 2002, visionary filmmaker Paul W.S. Anderson tackled an adaptation of the beloved video game franchise Resident Evil, and then continued to make these movies until there were 6 of them. Then I watched all 6 of them and rated them based on a very specific set of metrics I have determined to decide what is the best Resident Evil movie in the franchise. And don't worry, I didn't leave out this one from 2022 because guess what, that's also a live-action Resident Evil movie. We're not going to cover any of the animated films like this one that I have here, Degeneration, or the TV series on Netflix, because you could not pay me to watch that show. So, let's waste no more time and let's get straight into this Resident Evil franchise, and stick around to the end of the video because that's where I'm going to be revealing in rapid fire succession my rankings of the entire series. It's go time, baby! 2002, Resident Evil, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, starring Michelle Rodriguez and Mia Jovovich. I had this film on VHS, by the way, and I did watch this a lot as a kid, so that might play into my overall nostalgia for the series. Now, I think it's important to provide a little bit of context before diving straight into this movie. 1. It's 2002, so this movie is going to feel like 2002. I felt that was important to say. And 2, at the time of this film's release, there were 3 mainline Resident Evil games, plus Code Veronica and Zero. Also, the franchise just hit a huge surge of popularity because of the 2001 remake of the original game. This game was massive, and honestly kickstarted so many people's love of the franchise, including mine and my brother's. So naturally, the original game would provide as a perfect groundwork for the film, right? Right? The game focuses heavily on survival horror aspects as you explore a mysterious mansion filled with zombies, only to uncover secrets that lead to a giant underground facility built by the evil corporation Umbrella, who, in fact, created the T-Virus and started this whole zombie outbreak in the first place. Well, the movie does in fact take this premise and roll with it, just not in the way that fans maybe would have expected.
So if you're watching a straight adaptation of Resident Evil 1, the game, there's no suspense. You know who's going to live, who's going to die, you know what the story is, and I felt that would make a very unsatisfying adaptation.
The idea I came up with was to do a prequel.
In the very first game, you go into the woods and there's a mansion, and below it is a high-tech research facility. And it's all overrun with undead and mutants and creatures, but it's never really explained what's happened. You know, the backstory to that is never really explained. And that's what the movie does, is the movie kind of is the lead up, is the prequel to the very first game.
That's not actually a bad idea. And because movies based on video games are notoriously bad, it kind of makes a lot of sense to do it this way. Introduce your own new characters that people have no prior expectations to, and then just use the world and the lore and do something within that. So I'm actually totally bought in on this idea. I think it's a really good idea. Okay, so Resident Evil 1, the movie. We open on the Spencer Mansion and we meet Alice, Mia Jovovich's character, as she lies naked in a tub. Now get used to this scene because you're going to see it a lot in every single movie later in this franchise. But we quickly realize that Alice has lost her memory, and thus we begin a Bourne Identity style character arc where she slowly discovers her past and that she actually has legit fighting capabilities, and you can really feel the Matrix influence in this film. But again, this is 2002 and it feels like that. Anyway, Michelle Rodriguez and a bunch of dudes make up a SWAT style team similar to STARS or the BSAA from the games, but there's no mentioned correlation. And they find Alice along with Matt, another random guy who claims to be FBI. And with them becomes our band of main characters that work their way underneath the mansion to the Hive. Mysteries unfold, characters get chopped to bits by an iconic hallway laser, and the team is trapped miles beneath the surface in a maze filled with zombies. Honestly, it's a pretty great premise for a horror movie. I mean, I was definitely feeling the anxiety of how the hell are we going to get out of this maze and get back to safety. Watching this again and with my son, I felt that this was a very solid movie still. Alice is a great new character. She feels interesting, and there's a lot to be had there with the mystery that's going on and unraveling what her past has to do with the current story. There's some genuinely good horror moments, and I feel like the CGI actually holds up surprisingly well for 2002. I mean, the liquor being the biggest casualty of early 2000s CG, that sometimes looks a little bit weak, but still the liquor makes for a proper boss fight towards the end of the movie that feels reminiscent of the games. And honestly, this movie just has its own aura. It actually captures the spirit of the games pretty well, but on its own, it still establishes its own texture and feel and vibe that you kind of can't help but love, you know? Maybe it's just my love for the early 2000s aesthetic, but I love how drenched in early 2000s this movie is. It does not matter what type of scene is going on, if it's drama, if it's tense, if it's fun, there will be electronica or nu metal music playing. And I love that for some reason. It just works. The colors pop, the costume design is impractical in favor of being sexy, and everything just looks and feels cool, which I like. And Logan, my son, he's been replaying through all of the games since we finished 9, but he called out that this movie actually felt like you were playing a game because we had these moments early on where, Alice was finding documents, and we'd get the close-ups on the documents, and it would kind of reveal a little bit about the story that was going on. Or for instance, you would go into a room and grab an item, and then it would trigger an event, and then it had this chain reaction feel to it. Or just through the close-ups of the ammunition or close-ups of keys on the ground that you grab, the item usage and the item storage, it actually kind of felt like the game. It has its fair share of shitty dialogue and cheesy performances, not unlike the games. So I'll just say this up front. This is by far the best film in the Resident Evil franchise. Now hold on, that doesn't mean that I'm spoiling my list because I haven't gone over the criteria yet for how I'm ranking these Resident Evil movies. These are action movies first and foremost, so that's why the first criteria on our list, on a scale of 1 to 10, we are ranking the action in these films. Number 2, incoherent plot. The less it makes sense, the more fun we're having. Boss fight. Who's the big baddie of the movie? Shitty dialogue on a scale of 1 to 5. Shitty adaptation of a beloved Resident Evil character. And lastly, how do all of these ingredients add up? Because sometimes a bunch of shitty things smashed together can actually create a really fun time. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much fun did I have watching this movie? And when you add all those things together, you can reach a maximum of 50 points, and that's going to be the ultimate Resident Evil movie experience. Now that you understand how I'm scoring these movies, let's proceed on to Resident Evil 2, or Resident Evil Apocalypse. Was this 2006? I thought it was 2004. Not directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, however, he did write and produce it, so he's still very heavily involved. I also failed to mention that Paul W.S. Anderson is married to Mia Jovovich, so the two of them together, it's kind of their franchise at this point. Now, picking up where the last one left off, Alice is again naked, or at least as close to naked as she can be while wearing what is considered clothing, if you consider it clothing. And Raccoon City. Here we go, baby. Resident Evil 2 is on the way. And look, I know that outfit. That's Jill Valentine from Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. A real-life adaptation of a beloved Resident Evil character in a 1-to-1 costume remake. Oh, and that dude is Carlos? What? Carlos from Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
Stars.
And Nemesis, holy shit, Nemesis from RE3 Nemesis.
Stars.
How many times can I say nemesis in 30 seconds? Nemesis, 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 nemesis. A lot of times. All right, that's about as far as the adaptation goes when it comes to Resident Evil 3 adaptation material. Anyway, the virus has clearly spread now, and Raccoon City is basically f***ed. Umbrella and their people are trying to get the f*** out of there, and they're trying to save one of their head scientists, but guess what? Their head scientist's daughter is still trapped in the city. So, shit. He needs someone to help them. Naturally, that'll be Jill and Carlos and Alice through some set of circumstances in which they all collide. Now, this movie does initially set up that Jill is kind of our main character, or at least it feels that way at the beginning of the movie. And Jill is wildly different than the Jill we meet in the games. Smoking cigarettes, tough talking, and just shooting her way through situations, she is the ultimate female badass. Tough talk can only get you so far, as I do think that the character is fairly hollow, or I don't know, just not that well represented in general. It doesn't really feel anything like Jill from the games. And even though she's kind of our lead early on, she very quickly gets cast aside once Alice joins the fold. No one else gets to be a badass when Alice is around. I mean, Alice steals every glory moment in this film. Like, the second anyone else has an opportunity to do something, Alice just jumps in and does a way cooler version of it, or just shows up and saves all the characters.
I'm good. But I'm not that good.
Which really does feel like a disservice to all the other characters that we started to set up, including this guy who's wearing a STARS patch. But remember, this is Alice's franchise, not Jill Valentine's. No. This ain't your grandpa's Resident Evil. This is Resident Evil the movie. Anyway, the story wants us to question why Alice is suddenly in beast mode, and it eventually answers it. She's been experimented on by Umbrella, and now she's bonded with the T-Virus, making her effectively a superhero. And Nemesis is Matt from the first movie, a mild love interest, you could say, and ultimately the movie builds to a confrontation that's going to be the final climax between the two as they go head-to-head. Oh, and by the way, Nemesis, he is very cool. I do love Nemesis here. His whole costuming, his presence. I would have liked to see a little bit more intimidating Nemesis moments, but ultimately, he's very well done, and you gotta give him props for that. Anyway, that's basically the whole plot. This movie's just non-stop action, but unfortunately, it's not that well shot. It's kind of all over the place and very frantic in its camera work, and I will say, Paul W.S. Anderson's directing is actually missed here, believe it or not. And even though the movie's plot is fairly sound, I guess, the actual action set pieces are incredibly incoherent. Like, at one point, the whole gang is trying to infiltrate this base, and their master plan for infiltrating the base is that Alice actually just infiltrates it first, goes to the roof, and then rappels down so that she can help all the gang get in, and then they can infiltrate the base together. Like, how the f*** did she get to the roof? I don't know, just to do cool Mission Impossible rappelling shit? I guess. Mike Epps as LJ is introduced, and he is by far the standout character in this movie. He's kind of just wandering around aimlessly for the first half, narrowly avoiding zombie encounters and just making really funny quips. He cracks me up in this movie. So yeah, the movie's pretty fun overall. I would say it's filled with a lot of cheesy dialogue. Its action is kind of incomprehensible, but the movie moves so fast, and the performances are goofy enough, and the movie's fun enough that it's fun. Okay, 2007, Resident Evil The Force Awakens. This movie begins with Alice naked in a tub. Specifically, the same naked in a tub scenes we saw in the first movie. And by the way, Alice in this movie, she's full on Jedi now. So, I know, it's wild. I feel it's important to note at this time that the Resident Evil movies, they all build to something that happens at the end of the film that inevitably backs itself into a corner that is very difficult for the next movie to climb out of. For instance, the end of number 2 reveals that Alice is now being controlled by Umbrella. She has these little flickers in her eyes that show Umbrella, they can use her whenever they want. They've got it figured out. Also, She's got like psychosis powers and she can totally make a dude's head explode with her brain. So she has the Force now. So this movie has to figure out how to deal with that at the beginning. And what it decides to do is off camera explain that Alice, in the time since the last movie, has removed Umbrella's control of her. However, her Force powers still remain. So I guess it doesn't really matter how the last movie ends. This movie can just write it out off camera and you just have to go with it. Anyway, back to Alice being naked in a tub. So we relive the sequence from the very first movie, except twist, Alice dies. Oh shit, Alice is dead. What's happening? Well, they go dump her body into a pile of bodies of the exact same Alice. That's right, Umbrella is cloning Alice, and there's a shit ton of them now. And for whatever reason, we don't know yet. But we'll figure it out, maybe. And maybe it will matter. Cut to the real Alice, and she's doing Mad Max Fury Road and gives us her narration explaining what happened between the last movie and this movie, which, by the way, this movie is aesthetically awesome. So props to the director here, Russell McKay, because there's a vision, and it is a very beautiful movie to look at. In the time since Part 2, the infection has spread, and America is totally f***ed now, right? So the zombies are also f***ed, because they have nothing to eat or drink, and they're all dry and crusty. But by nature of that, they are the coolest looking zombies to date. Like, the makeup and prosthetics is just really, really cool. We cut back to our core survivors, and the whole gang is back, baby. LJ, and Carlos, and Jill. Oh shit, that's not Jill. Yeah, no, Jill's not even mentioned or referenced at all. This is exactly who you think it is based on how she looks. Claire Redfield. A new beloved Resident Evil character brought from the games to life on screen by Ali Larter of Final Destination fame. And hey, she looks the part, even though Claire in the games, like, the story at this point is so off the trail that she's just doing her own thing. But I do actually like the representation of the character here. I think it works. So might as well throw in a Resident Evil character, right? I like her better than Jill. In fact, I really, really dig the whole setup of this film. You meet all these fun side characters like the bus driver, or Kmart, or Ashanti. You're ready to rock and roll with them. You'll go through thick or thin with these characters. They have fun chemistry, and they're fun on screen. Well, it's very short-lived because not even 30 minutes into this movie, the entire caravan basically self-implodes due to one minor mistake that LJ makes. A bunch of birds are attacking, he crashes his car, everyone freaks out, they come back together to try to rescue him, and then the bus, and then suddenly like half the characters die, and we get a nonsensical self-sacrifice from Ashanti that makes zero sense, and I guess a bunch of bird action. Thankfully, though, just in the nick of time to save all the characters who have plot armor, Alice shows up. And she brings with her the Force. And she stops all these birds from killing all the characters that matter. And the gang's back together. The new gang. The gang of people that are friends. And truthfully, this is really where the movie kind of falls apart for me. Though I really do like Carlos and Alice's chemistry. They have a little bit of fun banter going together. The rest of the characters, including Claire, they really just fall by the wayside and they don't have anything to do. Alice just steals the thunder again, like she did in the last movie. But this time, there's something more unlikable about her. I don't know, like there's not really enough going on for her character that gets me excited to root for her. So after a certain point, I just kind of find myself checked out and bored in this movie. And maybe it's because this movie also takes itself a bit more seriously. Like, it has a nice dark tone to it, and it's shot well. It's got well done action, in my opinion. And I like the set pieces. There's a scene in Las Vegas that is nice, but I don't get, like, why all the character chemistry just kind of fell apart after Alice rejoined the group, and now we're just focused on her. And she's kind of doing, like, the Dom Toretto, Vin Diesel and Fast and the Furious, like, we're family now. If I talk in, like, monotone, like, whispers now, and I'm Alice, and we're gonna make it, and we're all family. And I don't know, it just fucking sucks. It all builds to a final 20 minutes where, Alice goes back to Jorah Mormont, and Jorah Mormont becomes a tyrant, and there's a big tyrant fight, and that's cool. I like the tyrant. He looks cool. They do a really good job executing creatures from the games on screen perfectly. Honestly, all the movies have. Oh, and Wesker was introduced. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. This movie ends with basically every single person dying except for Claire and Kmart, who fly off to go find some safety. They escape. Mia Jovovich finds herself among all of her clones, and she builds a clone army of her own Alice's, and that's how the movie ends. 2010. Wait, I can't remember when any of these movies came out. 2010. Resident Evil: Attack of the Clones. This movie opens with Alice naked. Oh. Nah, it doesn't. This movie opens with a massive sequence, the most bombastic we have seen in a Resident Evil movie franchise yet. And guess what, baby? Paul W.S. Anderson is back in the director's chair, and he's gonna fucking bring it. The first 20 minutes of this movie is bombastic, nutso, crazy, over-the-top, over-stylized action, and it's Alice and her army of clones attacking a massive underground umbrella facility that lies beneath Tokyo and inspires many questions of how the hell were they able to build this and sustain this in a post-apocalyptic world. We'll never know, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter how incoherent the complex story goes here. This movie tells you right away, stop thinking. Check your brain at the door. Because we have one mission. Fun. So Alice and her clones infiltrate this place. Guess who's down there? Wesker. And Wesker is our main villain this time. I think he's perfectly cast, by the way. He looks and feels just like the video game. And we get this big action sequence. And remember how I told you that every Resident Evil movie ends in a place where they don't know how to write themselves out of a corner? At least this movie quickly attempts to rewrite itself and get itself back on track. The underground base explodes and kills every single clone. But it doesn't kill Alice and it doesn't kill Wesker. Every other clone gone. And Wesker removes all the powers from Alice so she no longer has the Force or superhuman powers. Hey, we're back, baby. Alice is human again. And I will say, I am immediately more engaged in Alice's plot. And maybe it's because she doesn't have the Force anymore. I don't know. But there's something more likable about her again. Anyway, after this big epic opening sequence, the movie does slow itself down and we hone in back on Alice as she's now human again. And it's, I think, like 18 months have passed. Maybe it's 6 months. I don't know. We do a time jump. And she's got this little plane that she's flying around. And she's like, I haven't seen humans in months. And the whole world, or at least America, is a wasteland. But she's making her way to Alaska in hopes that she might be able to find Claire and Kmart, because that's where they went at the end of the last movie. And she finds Claire. But Claire has this little spider attachment on her that has her controlled by Umbrella. Don't worry, she's very quickly able to pull that off of her. And conveniently, Claire has now lost her memory. So we don't have to explain what happened. We don't have to figure it out. But Kmart, her character, it's mystery to where she is, but the movie's at least acknowledging her existence, which tells me that they will eventually try to figure out how to save Kmart. Anyway, Alice and Claire team up. They make their way to Hollywood, where there's this big prison compound facility that 6 or 7 human survivors have taken control of and are now holding out from the zombies, right? And all the zombies are outside of the gates. And these guys have it pretty figured out. You can tell they've been surviving for like over a year together. Endless supply of food because of like the prison food, I guess. And yeah, we kind of set up the stakes for a new survival horror story. It's all of these people trapped in this prison, and how are they going to survive the zombie apocalypse? And honestly, I like it. I like it a lot. It's like very George A. Romero. It's very Night of the Living Dead again. I mean, exaggerated to the extreme. It's very big. But they introduce a few new characters I really enjoy, like Luther. He kind of takes over as the new mild love interest, I suppose you could say. There's just something really charming about him. And then, of course, they introduce Chris. That's right. They don't reveal his last name for a while because they try to make it suspicious, like, ooh, is he really a criminal or not? But no, he is the beloved character adaptation from a Resident Evil game, Chris Redfield. He's here, baby, and he's Claire's brother, but Claire can't remember, conveniently. And, yeah, I don't love... He plays the character in like this kind of creepy way, and I think the reason he plays it that way is because we're supposed to suspect, is this the Chris we think it is, or is it like a imposter or a prisoner that's actually like a criminal? Once they release him, he'll like hurt them all. I don't know. I'm spending way too much time on this movie. I really liked this movie, actually. It was a huge surprise. It's a lot of fun. There's this huge, like, sequence where all the zombies break through from underground and they get to the rooftop, and there's a cool rooftop fight, and Mia Jovovich goes flying off the freaking roof doing rappel wire thing again. But even though it makes zero sense, it looks so awesome. And there's amazing music in this movie. Like, Tom and Dandy does the score, and I love it. It's just balls to the walls, like heavy guitars and electronica mixed. And there's a dope boss. There's two boss fights, but there's one dope one in the showers with the big axe guy from Resident Evil 4 or 5. And yeah, you can tell this movie takes a lot of inspiration from Resident Evil 5, the game, because like they have that, it's not Las Plagas, but it's the one that has the big like heads that kind of split out like this. And the zombies have that for whatever reason. So they're trying to take some influence from the game that was most recently released. And you can feel that here. And then the end of this movie, they get to this big ship, and it's an Umbrella ship, and Wesker's there, and there's a big final conflict with Wesker. I actually like it. It's got a really cool choreographed fight sequence between Chris, Claire, and Alice. And Chris and Claire very quickly get cast aside again, and it's the Alice show per usual. In fact, Claire basically has nothing to do in this movie, and Chris, after it's revealed that he is Chris Redfield like we think he is, then he has nothing to do either. So I don't know. It's not the best handling of those characters, just because I don't know. They just have nothing to do. But this fight scene's pretty cool, and it turns out Wesker had a big plan, and he tricked one of the people that was in the prison to try to get Alice back to the ship, because Wesker needs Alice now, because Wesker's got the T-virus and it's eating him alive. Alice is clearly the only person who's ever been able to bond with the T-virus. So guess what? He re-injects her with the T-virus. And we're back where we f***ing started. Yeah. And also just the fact that he like is trying to kill her, and then he wants her, and then he's trying to kill her, and then he wants her. Like the movies are so back and forth. It's honestly ridiculous. Long story short, Wesker blows up at the end of this film. We think we're all safe and clear until a huge convoy of Umbrella ships comes flying in, and they're going to attack this ship, and none other than this character is on board. And if you haven't played Resident Evil 5, I think you would have no idea who this is. So it's funny to me at this point that the movies insist on like doing these like one-to-one creations, like from outfit, design, everything of like a character from the games. But then the movies are so different than the games. It's like, who's their audience? It's so wild to me, because they're not making these for people who are fans of the games, but people who don't play the games are not going to know who the this character is. But that character is Jill Valentine. She looks nothing like she did in Resident Evil 2. Like, you would be hard-pressed to tell me that that was Jill if I hadn't played the game. But I recognize the outfit because in Resident Evil 5, Jill Valentine is evil, and she's wearing that outfit, and she has the spider thing on her chest. And so I know that's Jill Valentine. But anyway, I just think it's funny. So that was Resident Evil 5, or 4. Resident Evil 5, or Resident Evil Retribution. This movie came out in 2012? Paul W.S. Anderson directed it, and this movie starts out in reverse. No, actually, I think the opening sequence is epic. It picks up right where the last movie left off. It's the big attack of Jill Valentine on the ship, but it's done in reverse, and I really like this choice. I don't know what it means story-wise, but I do know that it looks cool. And that checks off a lot of my boxes for what I'm looking for when I'm watching a Resident Evil movie. And then it brings us to Alice naked in a tub. We're back, baby. Paul W.S. Anderson knows what he's doing. He gives us lengthy flashbacks and explains to us why Resident Evil, the franchise, is where it's at. We get this very full recap, and you can notice exactly which characters they reference and which ones they don't, because those are the characters that are going to make an appearance in this movie. After all that happens, Alice wakes up. She's captured in some base. Jill Valentine's been interrogating her, and now she's underground again in a huge Umbrella facility, and Claire and Chris and Kmart are nowhere to be found. Nor will they be. Spoiler alert, they're not in this movie, nor are they explained at all. So I guess we just forget about them again. So here we are. We're Resident Evil 5 Retribution, and almost from the second this movie starts, like, she wakes up and it's just action set piece after action set piece. They introduce Ada Wong, action set piece. Introduce Leon Kennedy and Barry, action set piece. If they weren't wearing their exact outfits and didn't say their names over and over again out loud so that we as an audience know that they're beloved characters from the Resident Evil franchise, we would not know that they are them because they share no other characteristics. But we've got 3 completely new Resident Evil video game characters brought to life in this movie, and they're in it a lot. Oh man. And then we also bring back Michelle Rodriguez, and we bring back Odette Fair as Carlos, and we're just getting clones galore because now Umbrella has just cloned everyone. Why? Not sure in the slightest. The plot, it just makes zero sense. Alice is escaping. She's got Ada Wong kind of helping her out here and there. And Leon Kennedy, along with Luther, who's alive from the last movie, and Barry, and a couple of random side characters that are there to be killed off, they are infiltrating from the top to come save Alice. You can guess what happens. Their mission, they quickly fail, and they're getting stuck and cornered. And Alice, she gets herself through basically this whole base and then comes upon these guys, saves them, and then successfully extracts herself and them. It's like a reverse rescue mission, which... classic. This is classic at this point. There's very little dialogue in this movie. And every line, I swear, is just a cheesy one-liner. So it definitely crosses off every maximum amount of like shitty dialogue line you could have without any actual story dialogue. Like it's just minimal. And yeah, Alice has a kid now. I forgot to mention that too. So that's where this movie ends. Wesker, oh no it doesn't. Yeah, this movie ends wild. Sorry, it's giving me like a headache to even talk about this series at this point because it's so jumbled. This movie is so jumbled. And its attempts to connect all the movies while also just disregarding what happened in the last movie entirely is just one of the most bonkers things. Like, the stories make zero sense. But, oh man, this movie ends with them flying and meeting Wesker because Wesker needs them now. They're like, Alice, you're my girl. Ada, Leon, Jill, because yeah, they saved Jill. You're all my team. You're my people. And we're the last remaining humans because this whole place is a shitstorm. Everything Umbrella was doing, it's failed. And the movie ends with them all looking out at this just unreal apocalyptic Washington, D.C. landscape. And I can't help but feel like they just backed themselves into another crazy corner of like what to expect. And don't worry, they do not fulfill on any of the promises because none of those side characters return. Not one of them returns. It's just Alice. Oh, and Wesker. Wesker does come back. As discombobulated as I am right now, though, Resident Evil 5 is actually a really fun time. I saw it in theaters when it initially came out, and I remember just hating it. But I actually had a lot of fun with it this time. Me and Logan were laughing our asses off. I mean, there's a scene where Barry... We never even see him do this, but apparently he chucked his gun in the air. He walks out, he gives himself up, he gets shot, he falls to the ground, and then the gun comes falling back down. He grabs it, sits up, and then like shoots a dude. Like, it makes no sense. It's just so wild, but it's actually a really fun time. It's like playing Time Crisis at the arcade. It's just onslaughts of action and zero story. Okay, Resident Evil, the final chapter, 2016 maybe? I don't know on this one. But, I gotta keep this brief because they just rewrite everything again. This movie just rewrites everything, but this time with way less of a budget because the last one flopped horrendously. And now at this point, Paul W.S. Anderson and Mia Jovovich clearly just want to wrap the series up, thus the final chapter. None of the side characters are back, at least from the last movie, but guess who is back? Claire Redfield. Thank God. We get to have another movie where she does absolutely nothing. Alice is trekking across this apocalyptic landscape. She encounters Wesker a number of times. She gets handcuffed to the back of a freaking military vehicle and is having to run to stay in front of a horde of zombies, which I think is a really cool sequence. But every other action scene in this movie is just absolutely horrendous to look at. And that so far has been the big salvageable quality of this franchise. Like, as the story gets more nonsensical, at least the action is comprehensible and fun. not in number 6. And I don't get it because it's still Paul W.S. Anderson, but maybe he had a second unit guy, a cinematographer, or an assistant director who knew action better than him. Or it could have just been budgetary. Who knows? But this movie, like, the action, it has like a cut every millisecond. It's just, I mean, even in scenes where like you clearly can tell they don't need to have that, and it just does. So that's extremely frustrating. They bring back Jorah Mormont, who should be dead, but doesn't really matter. Wesker's back. He's been dead like 15 times. Although this time, a door totally takes him out. He's dodging bullets. He's doing all sorts of crazy shit before, but now just a door shutting and severing his leg. It's just like, that's how they take care of him. Boss fights with Jorah Mormont again, the big dragon guy, I guess. This movie's exhausting to talk about because at least the last one was fun, but this just makes zero sense. It's trying to tie everything back together. It brings back the Red Queen. It brings back old Mia Jovovich, like, from the future. And she comes into play and tries to save them and help solve everything at the end. And maybe she was actually a part of it all. Like, I don't know. It's just the final chapter. Alice at the very end takes the freaking green antivirus and breaks it, and just like it murders all the zombies in like a massive radius. Suddenly, doesn't make sense, but maybe she solved the apocalypse, and that's how the movie ends and how the franchise ends. Oh, okay. Thank God. I'm done with these movies. Like, as fun as they are, that 6th one is brutal as hell. And I realize just talking through those movies, like how quickly I mentally cannot take trying to figure out the story. Like, thank God we're done. That's Resident Evil 1 through 6. There's one more. 2022, Resident Evil. Okay, this movie, it's not Paul W.S. Anderson, it is somebody else, and it has a much smaller budget, and it's an actual attempt at adapting the video games. So this movie is kind of a culmination of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 kind of smashed into one. It's an earnest attempt at doing that. The director clearly had a passion for the franchise, and you can feel that on screen. Like, I was purely expecting this movie to suck because that's how everyone talked about it. I actually had a really good time. Like, I will put this movie on again, and I will enjoy watching it. As a Resident Evil fan, there's so much actual video game stuff in this movie, like even down to like including specific shitty dialogue from the games, like the incorporation of the iconic Jill sandwich line from Resident Evil 1. Yeah, they actually make a Jill sandwich joke. Now, casting is kind of just horribly miscast all over the place. Like, Claire, actually, she's the best. She's by far the best. Visual representation of the character and just like kind of feeling like the character. Chris isn't bad. Leon looks nothing like the character, and really, from a character arc perspective, he's kind of just this fumbling, like, a little bit of an alcoholic, a little bit kind of a rookie, doesn't really know what he's doing, but I actually had a lot of fun with him. Like, he's actually pretty funny. If you just kind of try to get it out of your head that that's Leon, he's actually really fun. Jill, just, I don't even know. She's reduced to a pretty small part, but her character's just, like, annoying. I don't know what the deal is there. And then Wesker, who at times I thought was Barry, but it turns out he's Wesker. He's kind of like played as a hero, and I know in the first game he's like revealed to be a villain, but even after he like has all these wrongdoings and he's dying, he kind of like has a little bit of a hero's ending. And maybe the idea would be that he comes back, but yeah, I do like the performance. This movie actually covers so much ground. It has the Spencer Mansion, it has RPD, and it's lovingly recreated. And it has like the orphanage. It has so much shit. And then of course goes into like an Umbrella science lab at the bottom in Raccoon City outskirts. Like, they captured the spirit and the aesthetic of so many parts of the games. It's actually wild how fast the movie is able to work through all of this, but it feels pretty good. Like, the pacing is fun. It keeps me going. The horror was actually pretty good. You know, this whole subplot with the kids and the evil scientist guy, and you're trying to figure out what's going on there. Like, I thought it was fresh. I thought it was fun. There's a lot of poor performances. There's a lot of poor dialogue. I mean, really, it's not that great. I'm not I'm not trying to say go out there and watch it, but if you are a Resident Evil fan of the franchise and you're okay watching a bad movie, I think you can have fun with this. So it's worth including on this list because this is a list of bad movies, and that's a bad movie. Now let's talk about what the best bad movie is, and let's rank them. Okay, coming in 7th place is Resident Evil from 2002 with 23 points. That's right. You know, it didn't have any shitty adaptations of a beloved RE character, so that doesn't really hold it back. In 6th place with 24 points, Resident Evil The Final Chapter. Yeah, don't watch this movie. In 5th place, 25 points, Resident Evil Extinction. Definitely some stuff to like and to dislike here. Kind of hard to tell whether or not that means it's a good movie or bad movie based on the way I'm ranking these. 4th place, Resident Evil Apocalypse with 30 points. This is where it starts to become a little bit of a good bad time, in my opinion. And coming up in 3rd place from 2022 is Welcome to Raccoon City with 32 points. Yeah, this is actually a really fun movie, so maybe watch it if you haven't. 2nd place with 38 points, Resident Evil Afterlife. Plenty of slow motion, plenty of crazy action sequences, incoherent ridiculousness, but in a really fun way. And coming in at number 1, the movie that I probably thought I hated the most from the Resident Evil franchise, but actually now really love, unironically, Resident Evil Retribution with 47 points, a landslide win. Wow. 10 out of 10s across the board in most categories. I still couldn't go all the way there with fun because sometimes it hurts your brain to watch this movie. But hey, what did you guys think? Is this your favorite movie from the franchise? Because it's objectively the best one. So if it's not, then maybe you need to look inward and figure out what's wrong with you and then revisit the franchise again. Anyway, I had a lot of fun watching these movies and revisiting them. I'm really excited for Zach Kreger's Resident Evil movie that's supposed to be coming out this year in 2026. So hopefully we get that a little later this year. Maybe we'll actually get our first real good Resident Evil movie as far as, you know, adapting the video games. No shade to these films. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Have you been playing Resident Evil 9? If you have, let me know in the comments below. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. Obviously, just do it. I don't know what you're waiting for. Click on my LinkedIn, Letterboxd. Goodness, these movies, that take it out of you. Follow there, and then TikTok and Instagram. I got it all. Linktree, hit me up. All right, love you guys. Catch you in the next one.